Welcome everyone. So we're going to start off with a PowerPoint. It's me, Thomas Nilsson, and Caroline Tigersjö that's going to talk at this webinar today. I'm going to start with a PowerPoint talking about this release that we call 22.2. We released a version last week, October 20th. We are planning to do some minor fixes that we've seen and some features that weren't really finished, but they will be finished next week. So we're actually going to release a new version next week. The previous version released in June, called Naviate 22.1, only included road, pipe, and landscape, not traffic and autopath. The version 22.2 also includes Naviate Traffic. This version will be released as a version for 2021, 2020, and 2019, and you see the numbering that we are using. So the 2021 version will be named 21.12 and carrying on. So it's the second generation actually that number one, and version number 2 follows this version. It's a bit complicated when we have multiple versions of the same version. If anyone has been using Autopath, you should have been informed that that is not any longer a module in the Naviate portfolio. It's going to be supplied by the supplier CGS instead. Symetri will from now on focus on our Autodesk vehicle tracking instead. So in 22.2 we release road, pipe, landscape, and traffic. And also this means that all news, because the reason to this is that we have developed previously we did not develop traffic ourselves. But this time we have developed it 100% ourselves due to some requests that we needed for the local Nordic market and so on. And that's why we're releasing it for all versions 21, 20, and 2019 as well. I should also say you have a questions panel. That's the one, Caroline, right? Questions panel, where you can ask questions. Someone is saying you can't hear. Can someone confirm that you can hear and that you've seen what we've been showing? I can hear, yeah. So it is working, thank you. Now you found also the questions pane. So if you have any questions or comments, you are welcome to write questions there and comments. So we're also glad to hear if you have questions or opinions on things we've done, things you would like to have done instead, and suggestions and so. We will try to answer questions here depending on the number of questions and the time limit that we have. We might not answer all questions, but we will try to, depending on. We can also come back later to answer questions. Okay, so the news for this version 22.2, new commands and so. We have a completely rewritten traffic module. Caroline is going to show some parts at the end of this webinar, and we will also have a separate webinar a week from now where we will go through each of the features in the traffic module. Other things are enhanced BIM 360 support for Naviate commands, updated extrude and measure commands. We will show these later on. We have some features in our property palettes, filtering, export, match properties, and so. We will also have a look at those. We have some new pipe or new subassemblies for road, which is a 6-layer lane and shoulder, And for pipe, a new pipe trench rock cut. Caroline is going to show the pipe trench rock cut later today. We have improved script export of pipe networks, actually, with property sets. Of course, not only pipe structures as well. Lime columns, we're going to show what that is. Some kind of linear or area piles. As previous version, we have ribbons in English only in this version, and pallets in local languages like Swedish, Norwegian, and Finnish. We would like to have a few polls right now, if you would like to answer some questions. So let's see. I'll try to get this one out. I hope you're getting the poll right now. You can see people answering. So we want to know what version you are working on. Some people answered, some have still not answered. I will close it down in, people are still voting. In 3 seconds, 2, 1, and I close that one. Are you planning to upgrade soon, maybe to 22 or another version? Some answering, 20, 22, 21 also. Interesting to see this here. I'm closing this one in 3 seconds, 2, 1, and close. Are you using Naviate today? And how frequently? Daily, weekly, monthly, or no, maybe not yet? Nice to see the majority is saying daily. That's great. We also have some saying no, not yet. So as this webinar focuses on news, we will be very specific in the details. Caroline will later show you where to find more webinars, and you're also welcome to contact us with questions if there are any. So I'm closing that one now. Final question, of course, mostly directed to the Swedish or local Nordic countries, is if English ribbons is okay, or if you see a problem with that. So what we mean with that is in the latest versions, we are releasing only English ribbons, but the tool palettes are still in the local language, so you can still use those. So it's interesting to see your reaction there. It saves us quite a lot of time when we're working with multiple versions. But of course, we want to know if we are causing issues with this. Okay. So most people accepting this, nice to see. If you have any special comments, of course, as I said, write in the questions pane and we can address these later. So I'm closing down this one there. And now you can see my screen again, right, Caroline?
Yep, we can.
Good. So then we continue on. So Caroline will show later the new traffic module. It's completely rewritten, as I said. From my side, I will talk about improved BIM 360 support. So if you are using BIM 360 and you are using Naviate, and especially if you're using our assembly import and export tool, where we can share assemblies between projects and users and update assemblies in existing drawings with new settings from the assembly folders. We have been working on better support of data placed on BIM 360. And that's a little button down here, which says refresh data shortcut project. So every time this dialog for importing assemblies opens, we will refresh and retrieve all information from BIM 360. The first time this is going to take quite a long time. The second time and onwards, it's hopefully just going to take the news and it's not going to take much time to update. So this is one of our very big tools allowing you to share assemblies for road design or pipe design across your project and with your colleagues. So into feature news, we've worked on our 3D measure command down here. That one places objects along a corridor. I will show these features a bit more so we see what's happening. The news here is that we are supporting 2D and 3D block filtering, so we can select here if we want to work with 2D and 3D. Previously, it only worked with 3D, but we have had requests on adding 2D objects along lines and so as well. And you can now also select blocks from file, which you will see. You click browse here and you will see some block libraries that we've had and supplied, and you can also add yourself blocks into those. We've also added the ability to add property sets to those objects when we're inserting them along the maybe the road edge or something like that. So down here we have added add property set button that will update or add property sets by opening another window or dialog afterwards. We will soon see that one. Maybe you've been using our extrude commands. It's some kind of, well, it's similar like a corridor, but it's extruding a shape along a feature line or a polyline or anything you've drawn. And this one now allows you to select blocks in a more simple way. Actually, the dialog is brand new. So we have a name, we have layer, we have a block or a profile. So you can draw a closed polyline yourself. You will soon see how I use this one. And you can click select or browse to select a block in our folder. And we have more settings down here. We will soon see this one in more detail. These are the information. We add property sets as well. Our property set command, this one is used to add, update, and analyze property set information. You will soon see this one. If you're familiar with this one, you might want to know the hide unselected feature we added here, which means you can select which columns to see. So if you have multiple columns in your property set, you can select the ones to see and you click hide. And you can actually save that filter as well, clicking there. This also filters the CSV export. So if I export after filtering, I will only see or get in that CSV files the columns I filtered. We have updated the match property from CSV command. You will see that in the demo soon. And Caroline will later show you actually this one, a duplicate command to copy property set data from one property set to another property set on the same object, especially used for copying dynamic civil 3D property set to more dead property set that we can add to, for instance, if it's a pipe property set you have dynamic properties on that one, taking elevation and material and so. But if we add that property set to a solid, those will die. So we copy them instead. Caroline will show more details. Good to know is that we've in this version added new property sets according to a Swedish standard called SMIL, which includes BSAB and co-class properties. So those are available to import into your drawing. It's been a cooperation with Sweco to do this. If you are interested in this one, please contact Symetri support, and especially Mia, who has designed these, will help you in how to get those working. We also added the Swedish Property AMA into our corridor property set. I will show you this soon. I will show you how I have exported corridor solids with a certain name here. This is the Swedish for pave one. And it's going to find that name in a list and take the AMA code and add it to that property there. I will soon show you that. So moving over to Civil 3D, I'm going to take some steps back. I'm going to start with showing, I believe you've seen this one. This is our export feature line tool. I'm selecting here, excuse me for the Swedish, for you who are not Swedish, I'm selecting the guardrail code there, the edge of paved surface or paved shoulder, edge of travel way, and the center crown line. And I'm going to export that one or those ones to a feature line. So you notice that it appears here. So I have a plan view to my left, I have a 3D view to my right. You can see the magenta colored feature lines created there. So I'm going to do some addings of data to here. I'm going to start with the 3D measure command here in my Naviate road panel. I'm going to select the center line and I'm going to browse. No, I'm not going to select that one, sorry. I'm going to select my EPS there. And I'm going to browse. And as you see here, we've now added a new block folder where we will continue adding blocks for different purposes. So in the 3D blocks, notice that the first time you come here, you will most probably have this appearance. So you need to change this one to large icons or what's in your language. And you will see some prepared road stuff here. So it's some cones, some poles, road edge markers, it's a road light, a road stud, a tree, and so on. So I'm going to take one of these, take the road light, open that one. It appears here, so I can preview it. Of course, I can select here also my 3D, or if you want to use 2D, you can select that one instead. So I'm going back to 3D. I need to reselect that one there. Okay, so taking that one, so this command, I can select the start and end and which interval. I want to have it every 20 meters. And I have different ways of moving or tweaking it. I'm going to have that one to 0 there. And I do OK. If I zoom in here, I can, for instance, see that this one is actually leaning a little bit. So if I'm not happy with this one, I will select no. And I can then say, do not align to main path. You see, it's going to stand horizontal or vertical, depending on how you see it. Now it's going to stand straight up instead. And I can, of course, change any of those settings. When I'm done, I select yes. And I come to the add properties command. And I can add lights as a manual property and connect it to my corridor and alignment. In this one here, we can see, maybe if I take the corridor into my object viewer, you can see that I have a guardrail. That guardrail is built from the corridor. So it's a subassembly there, but it doesn't build any poles. Normally we recommend this measure command to do this, and we have then now made it easier for you to select something. So in the browse here, we have a round pole and a square pole, which I can select like that. I want to have this one every 5 meters. And If I click OK, if I now zoom in, we might see that it's not 100% close to the guardrail. So I'm this time saying no, and I know that I need to move this one to the left 5 centimeters, and now it's close to that guardrail. So I'm happy now. I say yes, and let's say that this one is pole. So that's the measure commands. Did I miss anything, Caroline? Please let me know if you have anything to add, or if there are any questions I should answer. Feel free to ask questions. The extrude command. This was not dialog based before. Same here. We have block possibility. I can click browse, and I have extrude profiles. So we have some extrude profiles added. I think I've added 1 or 2 here afterwards as well here, but let's try the barrier one. So I'm going to do open on the barrier. It's going to take some time to import because my machine is a bit slow on that one. Come on. Normally it doesn't take that much time, but something is wrong in my machine here. So I have the possibility to set scale, rotation, add up elevation up and down, weed if my feature lines or lines are too or have too dense vertices, and I can add property sets to it. So let's do create. I'm going to select the center line. I'm actually going to zoom out so we see something happening here. I'm going to select that feature line there, and now it's added there. And this asks if I want to flip it, which I don't want to do now. I'm just going to do that one. And I'm going to, previously I added barrier. I'm going to have this code as well this time. I'm going to do another one as well. This time I'm going to select instead. Sorry. I can draw. Please notice that I can draw anything as closed polyline or a circle. So I can select a profile instead if I want to draw it in this drawing. You can also click select, and then you can select the block that's inserted in the drawing. So this time I'm going to select one of the road edges there. And now you see that retaining wall being created there. And if I flip that one, notice that the foot is now on this side here. If I select flip, it's moved to the other side. Of course, this is a strange retaining wall there, but anyhow, it's for display. And then I will actually use the Swedish word for retaining walls, because I'm going to match something later on. So those were those features. So we had a question about the library. Yeah, you answered, Caroline. Yeah. So we're going to keep adding objects in here, but it needs update. We're actually looking into possibilities to update when we add content, but that's going to come in later versions. So next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to run our command solids from corridor. So I'm going to export solids from this corridor. So this tool, we have some more features than the civil one has. For instance, we can divide into frequencies. These frequencies need to match the corridor. So if you calculated the corridor in 20-meter interval, 10 or 5 or something, you can use 20, but you can't have less frequency than what you have in your corridor, because then we won't match. So if I type 5, it's going to say it doesn't match the corridor frequency you have, when it does. So, and we can create solids to another drawing. Notice also we can export the solid information to a CSV file without creating the solids. Then you can analyze your data later on. So let's have a look at what happens when I do this. So I believe it's right. So now it builds my solids. It's going to take a while. I should have been in the plan view. It takes a little bit long time when I'm in the 3D view. And what I'm going to show now is the option to, I actually had another thing to mention before we do this. I think I'm going to do that one afterwards then. Caroline, please remind me to update those features now. So, or later. So let's have a look here. First, I'm going to mention that if you want to have a render material to your objects, it's just to select that here afterwards. So if I want to add a concrete or something here, it's just to select that one for the solids. These solids were exported with render material, depending on how you set up your code set style. So we can add the render materials to the solids while we export. And these solids, as I mentioned, are now in 20-meter chunks. If I turn on realistic, you can see the render material added to the sub base. So what was new in the property set I mentioned is the Swedish ARMA code. This could of course be any code for any local language. So you can add properties into our standard property set. And you can also create your own property set. We will use the one you want to. I had a selection of which property set to use when I exported the solids. What I wanted to do now is to take our property palette, and I can now select my corridor, NV corridor property set. As I said, if I select that one, you will see the data here. If I do search, it's going to find all objects. If I want to filter, for instance, on a specific code, I can click there and I can say only filter my poles. It's then going to find only those poles that I added there. You see them highlighted there. So there's 28 of them. If I want to summarize information, I can make a summary there. Quantity. If I change the code here, for instance, to the that one, my sub base, it's going to select my sub bases there, and I want to have the complete volume for those like that. Oops. If I now want to filter this information, I could do something like this and hide. Now I only see those columns. If I export this information to CSV using that one there, those are the only columns that will be in that file. If I want to, I can save filters. I have one saved. I'll clear the selection and I will take that one. So if I save that one, it's going to automatically select the ones that I've saved with this filter. So you can create your own if you want to. Right now, I wanted to add the ARMA code, depending on the code. So we previously have had a match properties command. We created a new version of this command, and the only thing we did, because people had difficulties understanding how to set these things up. So we've allowed you to save a setting, which means that someone can set up settings on how to match. So ARMA code to NV corridor, and all settings are immediately set up. This is how to match ARMA code into NV corridor. So you can create your own. So what's going to happen now is, as I showed in this file here, we're going to match the code in the CSV file. So this is the CSV file here. We're going to match the code there with the ARMA code there and add it to each solid. So this could, of course, be any kind of code. Now we see that it varies. If I now go to the area here, I'm going to select any of the solids. Come on, there. You will now see DCC 341 for the top layer. And if I go downwards, you can see on my 3D view that it's selecting the layer downwards, and you can see that they have different codes. And as I named this one to the Swedish name of Stödmur, I also got the Swedish ARMA code for that one. So this one works on any of the objects when we work like this. And of course, this can work on any CSV file that you have. The ARMA code, I would like to mention, if I export that CSV file. So what I've done here is that I've exported CSV. In our export folder, our default export folder, CSV out, we have prepared some example files, Excel files for analyzing with pivot tables. So I open the one that's called NV corridor ARMA. And please notice the simplicity of adding the ARMA code into the analysis like this. Either before the code or after the code, or if I just want to have the ARMA code or whatever I want to present in here. It's very simple to use this data to analyze. Maybe add start station in here as well, and so very easy to analyze. We recommend you to try these tools there. So I guess I should hurry on, Caroline.
Maybe
Did I miss something? Pardon?
a little bit, yes.
Yes.
So we can get through everything.
Yeah, precisely. Also news, we have a 6-layer update of road subassemblies. So into our subassemblies, we've added lane standard 6, lane flexible 6, and shoulder 6. So the inner one here is the lane standard. So it has 6 layers now. It's the bottom layer, some kind of protection layer. And then we have the flexible lane, which can have different offsets, different depths, and so on, the inner and outer side. What we don't see here is that this shoulder can actually grow out in steps, so we can have different settings. Wonder if I have that one inserted here. Maybe I did. Yes, I think I did. So let's change the scale, 1 to 200. There, that's not the one, that's the one. You can see that they are created in steps out here. So that's been a request from customers. I had one of the last things to show in here as well. I mentioned the update. So let's drag this one a bit there and let the corridor recalculate. We are going to see that the corridor extended, the lines extended. If you use our Naviate Explorer, Object Explorer, you will see that the measures are in here. I could have, of course, named them better. So please notice the lights there. I will update all. And we should see the lights updating to the full length. Also, if I do the extrude, there they are, update all, we're going to have both of the retaining walls and the barrier updating, because it follows that specific feature line, which is a dynamic feature line. So coming back, yeah, there's a 6-layer assembly also included. Moving on to our extract faces from solid or mesh or slab command. So this was new in the previous version. You can, from any solid, mesh or slab, select to export top layers or bottom layers, which was a specific feature that you want quite often if you get information from, for instance, Revit and so. To this one, we've now added the possibility to create a boundary immediately. So the top layer can actually just immediately create a boundary from any solid or so. So it can, for instance, be from a Civil 3D exported solid from a corridor. And you want to instead have the boundary line or polyline with the same information, because we copy property set and so over to that one, and that's exportable to the GIS data and so. Lime columns is new. This is a way of adding piles along a line or within an area. That's why we call it linear or area piling. In Swedish and Finland, we call it lime columns, which is kalkpelare. So it's a stabilizer piles. So this one follows along a line and creates a pattern of piles, adds a property set to each pile. Could also be added within an area instead. So it completes our piling commands, which are in the Naviate Road section for the moment, where we have create piles, sheet piles, and anchors as well. So, Caroline, over to you.
Yes, I will take over and make myself a presenter. So yeah, so I have a few things that I want to go through, not as many as Thomas, so we should be done in about 10-15 minutes. The first thing I want to talk a little bit about is the exporting that we talked about with pipes. So we have this command that is called objects from network that has been around for a while, where we can basically export everything from a drawing to solids and export to another drawing. Recently, this spring, we started updating it so that we can get all our property set along with it, and we can copy to and from. And this is a specific task that we need to do for pipes, for other objects as well, but it's been highlighted with pipes, where when we add property set to pipes that extract information from the pipe, we can't just copy that property set over to another object, i.e. a solid. We need to disable that property set first. So that is why we started working with this, what we call NV pipe and NV pipe dead. So we basically remove all our formulas from the NV pipe dead. That's why we have this. So this command has been around for a while, but what we got as a request from a customer is to be able to do this via a script. Because this works fine if you're going to do it one time and you do it in one drawing. But if you want to do it via a script, then what do you do? So we sort of completed that method, and we created a script. We created actually a command for it. So this is the actual script. And I would recommend, if you start looking into scripts, this is a good way of handling it, of working in Excel. You basically just list the answers that you're going to do in your Excel. And this will be my script. So it's not that hard. All of this that we're looking at on the side here, these are the prompts that you get on the command line. So you can sort of get a highlight of how you would do it. Normally, you can do this in Notepad, and I would recommend to save scripts in Notepad. But while you're working, this is a very nice way of doing it. So the new command that we created is the data duplicate, to duplicate data from one property set to another, in this case, NV pipe to NV pipe dead, to sort of get this transformation of data. And then we have the pipe network to DWG, which is the export command. This has been around for a while, but we updated it this time around, so we can export everything here. To run this, if you're going to run it multiple times, you will save it as a script and you'll do it fancy and do it like that. But if you just want to try it, I can just copy this and then move over to my drawing, make sure I stand on the command line and paste it. Now, I've had some random crashes today, so I'm hoping it's going to work this time when I do it. What that means when I'm pasting it on the command line, it's running through my commands. Nope, didn't work. It's been sort of on and off all day, that it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, so I'm not really sure why. I will say though, it's been crashing on me with just civil commands as well. So I don't think it's Naviate. I think it's something with the 22.1 actually, because the 22.1 has been a bit tricky for me. I'm going to see if I can do this again. Start up my Naviate one more time. Like I said, when you run this via a script, it's usually safer, it's usually more stable. Once you've created your script file and you created your sort of button to make sure that you do it, I always recommend to run an audit on the files before you do that. That's usually a reason why it doesn't work. So just be aware that scripts are a bit tricky sometimes if it doesn't work, but it's not really been this difficult that it's been right now for me. So let's just see if I can do this again. So I'm going to do an audit the first thing. It's not going to take that long because it's a pretty small file that I'm going to do. So I'm just going to do that first, and we'll see if I can get the script to work. So copy and paste. There we go. Now it works. So you'll see that it's running through it, and you can see everything on the command line that it's been done. So you can sort of verify that your script does actually work. So what you get then is you get a exported file that you see here with everything in it. So the point of having this as a script is to be able to do it without having to open the drawing. But I wanted to highlight one thing, and that is inside this command that we have. I'm going to bring it up here. We have these two, where it says export pipe, export structure, and then you have all these different values that you can select. And this is something that we created that is new. So not only can you select and export the pipe to solids and your pipe to different positions, you can also export the structure in different positions. So if we take a look at this file, when I look at my structures, I have the solid here. That is one object. But if I remove that solid, I also have these circles. So the command is actually exporting all these circles. And this was a request from a customer that we had to get these circles out. So these are our standard AutoCAD objects. And everything in here has the property set that we, of course it doesn't, just because, there we go, the pipe has it, for the pipe dead. So it's actually moved the information over to our objects so we can use that. So that is one of the things that we've updated to make sure that we can get the exporting to sort of work. And we're working with that to make sure that we get the scripting together. We can do it. Another new pipe command that we have is the renumber. So we can renumber structure. This one is the difference here. There's a couple of differences between the Civil 3D command. I actually think it works better than the Civil 3D command, of course. But one of the things that it's going to do is, I just need to make sure that I have, because this is my pipe network 1, yes. I select the pipe network here. I can set my numbering sequence that I want to use. I can set a prefix here. I can also say I want to use all structures in network. So I can immediately here select how I want to renumber this. But the best thing I find with this is you can select the order from a line. Either you can have an existing line object, you can have an alignment here, or I can do draw a polyline. So if I don't have any line or linear object, then I can do a temporary line. So if I do draw a polyline here, so we have my pipe network 1. I'm going to do draw a polyline, click OK, and I select my structures. It's only going to bother about one of them because that's the only network I selected. And then I can do a temporary line like that. And it's going to renumber my structures. So you get a couple of different options on how to do the renumbering sequence. But there are, and of course you can also do it along an alignment. So if you have an alignment already, then you can renumber the structures along there. And it doesn't really matter what you select, since you've already selected your pipe network here. So it sort of makes more sense on how to do this when you do renumber sequence. So that is also a brand new command that is coming with 22.2. The third thing that I wanted to go through is the subassembly. The subassembly for our rock. So we have a new pipe trench subassembly for rock, and it's a part of the trench subassemblies or trench assemblies here. So you'll find a version that is called rock in your local language. So for me, it's called berg because I'm in Sweden, but it's called rock in the UK, and it's called kallio in Finland, I think. I know some basic Finnish right now because I'm doing all this for Finland. So you have that version there. Note that you still have the original one. So if you want to use that for any reason, you can, but I would recommend to start using the new one. It has been reworked from the ground up. It is a brand new subassembly. But as a user, you might not see that much difference because since it is reworked from the ground up, it's just created to be created better, let's put it like that. If you've used our rock trench subassembly before, you probably notice a couple of different situations where it doesn't really create all the solids. And this has been created to create those solids. So that is one of the benefits of it, that it's actually just better. It also creates it's been designed to reduce the amount of rock cut. So we actually have some limiting functionality. So it doesn't always create rock cut if it's a very, very small amount of rock cut. So we have some options there, but I would suggest that you start using it. And if you find any issues with it, just let us know. There are two things that are brand new in it though. One of the things, or three things. The first one is that we can now separate our trenches, our trench side slopes. So I can have different side slopes on different sides. We've had this in our normal trench for a while, so it's now added to our rock trench. We also have insulation. So you have different types of insulation. Again, you've had this before, so it's just added to the rock cut. But now you can select how you want the insulation to be created. And we also have individual bedding. So individual pipe bedding here. So you can select if you want to have a little bedding area for each of the pipes. So that is the new things in this rock surface. Otherwise, it works just as our standard pipe trenches that we want to do. So those were the new ones when we're talking about our different modules that we run through. So I want to just spend a couple of minutes, not too long, on our Naviate Traffic. The reason why I'm not going to spend too much time on this is that we're going to have a whole webinar. We're going to have a whole hour next week. We're going to go through everything here. So I'm just going to focus on what is actually new, if you put it like that. One of the, I'm actually going to open another file for this one. One of the big things that we worked with when it comes to the 3D model, or the Naviate Traffic, is the 3D model. So immediately when you start creating your objects, because if you've used this Naviate Traffic module before, then you will recognize everything. We haven't removed anything, we just added stuff. So if you start using this, you will notice that you'll recognize what you're doing. But the main thing is that we immediately inside these dialogues can project to a surface. So I can do it like that, and I'm just going to mute Thomas. There we go. So directly here I can project to surface from my dialog, and this goes for all the markings and all of the sign holders. Otherwise, you have all the different options as you will recognize before. So I can just place my 2D. If I don't want to use a 3D, then I don't have to. I can remove that directly, and you'll see that I have it here. Right now I have them black because I have a white background. They will be white if I have black background. You'll know these things. Line marking, same thing, where I can create my line markings and I can project them directly. I can select from templates. I don't need to create my markings directly. I can create them as multiple lines. So I can even say that, well, I want to have a complete road. And I have all my 3 lines here, and I even have them mirrored. So in this case, it's actually going to create a full set of road markings for me. So I can do this as multiple lines in one, and everything is connected to my main alignment in this case. It's a pretty long alignment, that's why it's going to take a little bit. And everything is projected up to the surface. It's projected as meshes, which means that we can move them over to Navisworks, we can move on to InfraWorks. And next week, we're going to go through how you actually do that and how it actually looks in those programs as well. So you'll see more examples on how to create this and also how to create your templates so that you can create your own lines. The libraries that we have included in Naviate is something that we have done. So I think we've done it pretty complete. We worked from the local, we worked with all the local areas. So it should be pretty complete what you need to do, but you can always do your own versions from it if you need to, like that. So you see my lines. Of course, now the lines that I selected are not matching to the road that I have, but I don't need. So I can do a 2D version of this if I want to. So you'll recognize those. And then we have sign holders where we insert our signs. We have 2 different sign types that we're looking at. You have the normal sort of sign library, which comes from the sign holder, where you can add your specific signs. And again, project to surface directly. Anything could be a sign holder. So if I want this to be a light post, I can do that, but I can also have it just as a normal sign, how I would like it to be. So I can place this along my road here and place that. And immediately I get my 3D model for my sign. I can add more signs to this. This is what we do with Manager. So Manager is to edit these signs, and we can add more to them if I like. So I can add a sign here and say that it's going to be, I want it to be a warning sign for pedestrians, for instance, and I can add that to my sign like that. And inside Manager, I can also sort of tweak this so I can make sure that I get them in the correct levels, how I would like it. And the 3D model is updated. Like I said, anything could be a sign holder, which means that I can also have a portal. I can have it as a truss or a fackverk, latticework, whatever you like. And we can then add the larger direction signs on that portal that I want to do. So I actually have an export here that we have as an example, where I can insert that and I can place it along my, right, and then my alignment, and I get this placed here, like that. And then I get my sign, and it's immediately a 3D model over here. And come on, there we go. And there you have your portal, where you have your truss. And Manager can then be used to move these signs around. So if I want to move this sideways, I can do offset side here, and I can move it to the middle. And the 3D model is updated. So you get it like that. So like I said, you will recognize this. You will see it more next week. So if you're interested in this and you want to see more of this, which I definitely recommend that you do, because there's a lot of things that we can do with this that we couldn't do before. How we handle these different things and how we can create them and everything like that. So we've added a lot of information here, even if you're going to recognize it. If you're interested in this, I'm not going to talk to Jan Tore. Naviate.com is the best way to find information. And here you can also find under Insights, you can find webinars. And here you see directly here, Naviate Traffic release news webinar, the 3rd of November. So next week at 3 o'clock. That is where you sign up for that week's webinar. So I would recommend to do that, and then we're going to go through everything about how Naviate Traffic works. If you can't wait, which I completely understand if you can't wait, contact me or Thomas, but you can start with me and see if you get access, and we can schedule something for you to demo it before that or after if you don't have time to come to the traffic webinar. Then. Good. I think that was it. Did I forget something? Did I rush it, Thomas? But
No,
I managed to keep it within the time at least.
It was depending on me overdrawing my time. Of course, these webinars will be recorded and added to our website. Maybe you should show where you will find the previous webinars and so.
Yeah. And also under Insights, if you take a look at webinars, you can see I still don't want to talk to him. You will see that the ones that are tagged with on demand, they are the previous ones. So it's the same place for finding new ones, where you can find our old ones. So you find on demand here, for instance. So if you're only interested in pipe, which of course you are, then you select pipe, and you only see the ones that are tagged with pipe, if you want to. So it just depends on how you want to see your webinars here. But everything is on Naviate.com under Insights, where we can find all the different information. And also release news. If you want to read more about what we've talked about today, you can find release news here. Again, sort on Civil 3D, and you can see it in text form here. To read more about the commands, we will update our help pages in Pinnacle. So if you use Pinnacle, then I would recommend that start reading there as well. About half of it is updated already, but I'm going to update everything during the next couple of weeks. Anything you want to finish off with, Thomas?
I think we answered the questions asked. Only thing we can say is that we had a question about having courses in Naviate explicitly. We have those in English, but we are planning to add those also for Swedish users. So it's interesting that we get questions of having trainings in Naviate in detail and not in Civil 3D only. Yes, so they will be available. Okay.
Good.
I think that's it. Yeah. Thanks for joining. See you soon again.